You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 90.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Bias.
This subject is a little bit fresh, meaning I changed it right before I was going to speak into the microphone here. And so now what I originally planned for the love episodes, every time episodes I talk about something that I didn't like or hated before and now I love. I'm going to move that to episode 100. And this one is a little bit more fitting for episode number 90. Well, because it's so fresh and the subject I have for 100, the 100th episode is a lot more fitting. And this is also a bit weird, is that love decisions. Okay, what does that mean? Love, it's not really so clear, so I'm going to clear that up. We humans make a lot of decisions during the day, from what to have for dinner, to like that post, to comment on that post, to text back somebody, to take the job, where to go on holiday, how to go from point A to point B, bicycle, by car. We make a lot of decisions and we don't even realize it. And I find that a lot of people that I know, friends and family, don't like making decisions. In fact, in kind of my circle, it's a lot of times like, I don't know. Well, whatever you want. Where do you want to go to dinner? Do you want Thai? Do you want sushi? I don't know, whatever you feel like. And so we have a lot of I don't know, and we don't decide things in our lives. And then when it comes to, quote unquote, maybe a bigger decision, like to take one job over another or to move to this country or another country, maybe some of those life-changing events, we overanalyze it and we put there's a right or wrong decision into it. And if we make the wrong decision, we're so fearful that we're going to regret it. And so this is why I wanted to talk about loving decisions, because I recently made a decision in the context of in a way that you don't think that you make a decision, meaning in a relationship. And it wasn't anything where I decided and proclaimed it, but I mentally made a decision and I realized how empowering that was, that I get to decide something in a relationship. Because in relationships, we often think that decisions are 50-50, and that is actually not the case. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my journey with that. And I first want to talk about why maybe think about loving them. And it can be for anything, liking that post, where to go to dinner, take that job, not take that job, leave that person, stay with that person. Whatever your decision is, you're going to love the process of making or taking, however you say it, the decision. The number one reason that I like to be intentional and really aware of my decisions is that it has taught me to care less and less about what other people think. When you practice all the decisions that you make, you'll see that people don't spend that much time thinking about you. So the best way is when your friends are like, oh, where should we go for a drink? Or where should we go for dinner? Make that decision. You make that decision. Say sushi and see what happens. Most of your friends are probably like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Or if not, one of your friends will be like, no, I'd rather go here. And then that's great. You go to that place or you decide or whatever, but you make a decision and you move forward. And it doesn't even become an issue about what other people are thinking. Because sometimes we can stress about making the right decision in front of somebody because we want to connect with them so badly. I know I have a friend that he won't tell me the opinion of a television program or a movie that we've seen, and we've seen it apart, and he'll kind of wait for me to decide, oh, I liked it, and be like, oh, yeah, that was really good too. And once you kind of decide, okay, I like something, and I'm not going to wait for something, or I decide that this is what I want to go here for dinner, I want to see this movie, you'll decide that people actually really don't care They really don't. When I started just saying, yeah, let's go here, let's go to this movie, let's do this, or I didn't really like that, even though it's a movie everybody liked. Everybody loved it, the critics, the audience, or whatever. And I said, well, I didn't really like that movie. You find that not many people care that much. And as you can see, then you can begin to see that people don't obsess about you as much as you think, or are not as worried or not as judgmental as we make up in our minds. The second reason to love making decisions is that when you are in indecision and you don't really move forward, it's actually really just a decision, right? You're in indecision, so you're deciding to not make a decision. That's basically what you're deciding. And a lot of times people who are in university tend to delay making the decision about their career path. And they'll kind of stay stuck and they won't decide something because they're like, oh, I don't know if this is what I really want, or I'll make money, or I don't know if this is my passion, or, kind of that kind of stuff. And the thing is that we're still kind of stuck in this, there's a right or wrong. And then all we're doing is delaying something because we're afraid of a negative emotion, when really we're already feeling the negative emotion of not deciding. The reason to make a decision, even if you think that you're unsure if this is the right decision, for example, like the right career choice for you, is that you'll get feedback. Like, let's say you decide, okay, I'm going to become a dentist, and you start down that road and you start to take courses. You will have so much more feedback and information about what course you want to go into, what direction you want to go to, rather than having it spin around in your head and not have some of that factual information that you need to steer your own career. It's kind of fascinating because you actually waste a lot of time just sitting there in indecision, rather than going and say, okay, I'm going to take these courses in dentistry, or go down this path, and I find out, well, no, this is really not my cup of tea. And then you're like, okay, now next. Instead, I would rather do this. You might actually get information about what it is you'd rather do. So that feedback loop of once you decide and you let go of there's no right or wrong, but the chances you decide and you're going to get more information on your next step is going to be so powerful, because you'll actually save a lot of time by deciding now. The third reason to love decisions is that it is so amazingly powerful and freeing. And I'm going to talk more so in relationships, because I think a lot of people find themselves kind of wanting to play a little bit, like I would say, on the fence in the relationships. Well, I don't know if I want to. And this could be for friendship or romantic relationships. I don't know if I want to stay in this relationship. I don't know if I want to continue down the way the form of the relationship is now. And I recently came to that point, and I had been dealing with a lot of indecision about it. And when I realized that I get to decide in a relationship, everything became clear, and I get to make a decision about the relationship. Now, it wasn't a decision like I'm going to stop the relationship or anything like that. It was allowed me to say, well, what is it that I actually want in this relationship, and decide from there. And what I realized is that in relationships, there are different forms of relationships. Even in romantic sense, there's relationships where people are in romantic and then they can date other people at the same time. And there's all these different forms, but it also exists in friendships. And you can have different forms in that context. You have your friends that you text a lot, you text every day. There may be someone that you only see once a year when you go back home or something, and you have these kind of different forms. And even in that kind of context, even when there's another person involved, you get to decide how you want to show up in that relationship. And so I had been kind of giving away my decision-making abilities to somebody else, because I was just waiting for that other person and waiting for how they behaved to dictate how I showed up in the relationship. So I was waiting for them to behave a certain way so that then I could behave a certain way, rather than deciding, okay, this is how I'm going to show up. I get to be like this. I can communicate with this person like this. I can contact them when I want to contact them. Of course, I'm not talking about not respecting their boundaries if they don't want to be contacted. I am talking about freely showing up and deciding this is how I'm going to show up in a relationship, and this is the form of a friendship that I wanted. And so once I made that decision, it opened up so much clarity and so much freedom of me being able to be me in a relationship. And now what that does and why we don't jump into that decision about anything is that it really can open you up to things like rejection. Like, okay, I decided this. I decided to go for this job. I'm going to take this job. It might not work out. And that can feel very deflating. I'm going to show up how I want to in a relationship, and that person's going to reject me. And if you look back at the second reason, and it comes back to getting that feedback, is that when you show up in a relationship how you want to show up and that person doesn't want however it is that you show up, you get that feedback and then you don't. And let's say they say, no, I don't want the relationship anymore because of how you show up, and they don't want to be with somebody like that, then you don't waste your time. You don't waste your energy here. You've gotten an answer, and then you can put your energy somewhere else into the people that accept you for who you are. So whatever decision you have coming up next that you're kind of thinking about in your head, even if it is what to eat for dinner, I want you to remember the 3 reasons to love decisions. What it really gives you when you make a decision, and don't stay in indecision, is that you find out how much people really don't care. Their opinions, other people's opinions, you find out that they're really not obsessed with you and judging you as much as you thought. 2 is it'll give you feedback, even if it is for dinner. Even if you decide, okay, I'm going to make this meal and it ends up not working out, guess what? You know, maybe to improve it or not make it the next time you're in a rush. And the 3rd reason is that it gives you the power, gives you the freedom and clarity to navigate your life and decide something where you almost feel like you don't have control, like even when you don't think you have complete control in a relationship, that you yourself do have control. And that feels so freeing and powerful. And so that's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.